K-On! Has some of the most meticulously crafted and wholly immersive sound design and engineering of any cute girls doing cute things anime I've seen. To be fair, that's kind of just one more thing you can add onto a list of things that K-On! Does exceptionally well, but compared to other notable elements like its distinctive characterization and invitational visual language, this essential facet of the show's premise is rarely given as much time in the analytical spotlight, which is a shame because I think it's broadly exemplary of its knack for effective storytelling. While the majority of the show's narrative is only loosely centered around how its characters interact with one another within the context of their group identity as a band, it's within a lot of the scenes wherein music takes precedence that these strengths come to the forefront. As early as Season 1, the scenes in which the girls perform for a live audience display a clear understanding of what makes those kinds of performances interesting: atmosphere and physicality. While the presentation of the performing act plays a dominant role in making that experience enjoyable from a musical perspective, what makes it an irreplicable one is the physical state of existing within that specific defined space. You aren't just watching the band perform live on YouTube or listening to one of their records. You are there, surrounded by a group of people united in the singular purpose of seeing the band perform, experiencing firsthand how its members and the sounds they produce interact with each other and the surrounding space. It's these small physical landmarks that give live performances distinctive sensory attachments that stick with you long after the encore. Now, sound design and audio engineering are complex and multifaceted skill sets, their roles in audio-visual mediums being no exception, involving any number of processes including voiceovers, musical arrangements, Foley, editing, mixing, and mastering, each realm having its own unique, creative, and technical processes with plenty of challenges and overlap between them. Mixing alone deals with any number of concepts including volume, compression, equalization, reverb, just to name a few, each playing a vital role in crafting the recorded audio's finalized sound. When crafting a scene set within a high school theater involving a band playing live music, the challenge from an audio engineering standpoint is to accurately replicate the acoustics a space would naturally and realistically possess, all from within the studio. As an amateur still learning my way around these concepts, I can say from experience that it's a detailed and complex process that's often difficult to nail with precision. In K-On!, such precision is not only necessary to its premise, but also to its broader thematic framework. And its creative staff offer it that critical attention to detail, going to great lengths to ensure that its live settings are physically realistic for its characters. During performances, the reverb is nicely matched to the setting, which gives it a distinctive and realistic sense of space. The various crowd sounds and reactions reinforce the idea of it being a communal experience, and the leveling ensures that no one element distracts from the others. It's not as if they carry the polished sheen of a studio recording, or even that of a mature group, which is entirely the point. K-On! Is about inexperienced teenagers goofing off and playing music together, and that's exactly what it sounds like. The series wants you to be aware of their growth as a band in parallel to their growth as individuals through the subtle nuances in their playing and how those nuances reflect off each other. It's purposefully designed to sound imperfect, and that's why it works as well as it does. Of course, its effective audio engineering extends to the rest of the show as well. The Foley work and sound effects strike a near-perfect balance of cartoonish realism that suits the tone of the series perfectly, the mixing is consistently even, and the qualities previously mentioned in regards to spacing and imaging extend into the band's practice sessions and their many other activities as well. Overall, it does an excellent job at defining the physical spaces in which the characters exist and interact with each other, which not only gives its various settings distinguishable identities, but also emphasizes the show's broader narrative. Okay, so this video isn't really about K-on's sound design. Well, it still kind of is, but the main reason I'm talking about it here is because in addition to being something the show does really well, it's also exemplary of what makes it so interesting and effective. One of the most common and frustrating critiques of cute girl anime I see, Kirara K especially, is the assertion that they lack narrative and conflict, which I can't help but see as a disingenuous and uncharitable reading of the genre. Especially in the case of K-on, which not only has conflict existing throughout the series, but is also directly informed by a distinct set of thematic premises. K-on is hardly the only anime centered around a group of high school girls growing together as friends and dealing with the rapidly approaching future. But what makes it unique is that, on a broader conceptual level, it's curiously interested in exploring how we relate to space, physicality, and the subtle ways in which we affect and are affected by our social and physical environments as thoroughly as possible. The further you get into the series, the more you begin noticing the small ways in which their personalities rub off each other as they start seeing themselves not only as individuals, but also as a collective. A subtle emotional undercurrent and social bond that extends into the physical spaces they occupy. In addition to the smart character writing, every facet of the show's production plays into conveying that. From consistently detailed character animation unique to each girl, subtly changing and developing as they begin adapting each other's quirks, to framing that emphasizes the small ways they interact within their environments through blocking and visual cohesion. And, of course, the sound design, which enhances those visually established spaces and provides a physical sense of depth to their interactions within them, with each and every location having such a distinct and well-crafted physical sense of identity and atmosphere. Even without having physically experienced it for yourself, its effect on the characters is immediately implicit. The way they perceive the sounds of their voices and performances through speakers, the reactions of the audience, the acoustic personality of the room they occupy, everything impacts and affects the way they see themselves as performers and a group. They're constantly being changed by each other and the world around them, and vice versa. Neither they nor the space are static or capable of existing in isolation. It's a circle of influences without beginning and end. Nothing is constant and everything changes. That's life, and that is the narrative of K-on! The emotional payoff that comes at the end of the series, when you're able to compare the characters to who they were at the beginning, seeing how they've affected each other's personal growth and have been affected by the spaces they exist within, is what gives the series its thematic texture. In the eyes of K-on!, we are each other and the entire world, all at once. As the narrative explores this idea over the course of the series, it's also subtly establishing a similar personal relationship with the audience. Because the sound design is so realistically immersive and the cinematography so openly invitational, as the girls become familiar and comfortable with each other and subtly begin changing as people, you also become familiar with their quirks and distinctive personality traits. Without noticing it, you even begin to see yourself as a part of their group. Naoko Yamada and the rest of the show's staff go to great lengths to ensure that this immersion isn't broken by audiovisual inconsistencies, as the narrative builds to an emotionally devastating climax, when the girls realize that their time together may be coming to a close. At the same time, you're struck by the realization that you'll have to say goodbye to your closest friends. In the final scene of the series, wherein the girls share one last tour of the school that they, as students, and you, as the vicarious member of their group, have become so intimately familiar with, this overarching narrative is at last fully realized. As they traverse the long, empty hallways and interact with the ever-familiar spaces for the very last time, the proof of its thematic core is implicit. Not only have the girls been affected and changed by each other and their environment, you too have been affected and changed by them. While the series has its painful emotional release when the characters at last become aware of their limited time together, it concludes with the knowledge that no matter where they go, they'll always be carrying a part of each other, and you, the viewer, a part of them. K-On! Extracts meaning from the ordinary and finds value in the subtle ways the world around us shapes who we are and who we become. It envisions our individual realities as being in a constant state of flux, our perceptions always moving, shifting, flowing, influencing and being influenced by everything at once. While the series explores a weird, formative period of our lives in which the most fundamental parts of our identities are still being developed, this perpetual state of change is something we experience at all ages. K-On!'s final episodes offer closure, but not finality. The girls are preparing to go to college together, a new space to learn from and be affected by, and you, the viewer, have your own world to explore and listen to. It's a profound expression of joy and hope in a world that often feels dark, isolating, confusing, and stagnated. Regardless of whatever we face, we're all part of something bigger than we could ever imagine. And the future is always worth living for. When I first finished the series, I was genuinely left seeing the world just a little bit differently. And upon returning to it, I become increasingly aware of the subtle ways my own life has been shaped by the spaces I live within, the people I interact with, and the art I hold close to my heart. Somehow, in light of this new perspective, the sky seems just a little bigger, and the world just a bit less lonely. The people around us, the places we go, the opportunities before us, the things we can't understand, the things that hurt, the friends we make and the friends we lose, the love we discover and the hearts that break, the changing of seasons and the passage of time, the stories we live through and the passions we're consumed by. They all inform who we are and have something to teach us about ourselves. We just have to learn to listen. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, then you know which buttons to press. I also want to thank you all for being patient with me in all this time I haven't made any new videos. 2019 has been a year, but it's okay. Hopefully I'll be able to get my next video out in a more reasonable amount of time. Anyway, thank you all very much. I will see you next time.